Welcome, Sky. Thank you so much for having a chat with Deb on the Mission Accepted podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Deb. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So look, we talk to entrepreneurs, creatives, and media all day long about taking on the mission.
Yes.
Which clearly you've done.
Yes. Always working on it.
Always working.
That's why I brought this up, because this is how I work through it and figure out exactly what my mission is. I put a lot of time into it. I don't think it... Yes, I think there's the little voice in your head, but I think you have to search for it and put a lot of time and effort into doing those exercises to see how do you want to live your life. So then that's how it goes into my art of empowering and just bringing in all those aspects of the creative mindset. But I think being an artist isn't just fine art. You're just a creative person, as we all are. If you're in business, you're creative. I used to be a personal trainer, and my other coworkers would go, I'm not creative. And I'd say, but you're creating a workout plan, which actually is a lot of work, and you have to be creative for each individual. So we're all creative.
We're all creative.
Yes.
I agree. That's why we say mission accepted, and it covers all of these areas. Because first of all, when you decide to become an entrepreneur, I always say that every entrepreneur is a creative and every creative is an entrepreneur. If you're putting your work out, if you're making this a business, if you have commerce involved, if there's a giving and a receiving, then basically you are a creative entrepreneur. And you're right. So it's very interesting, as we've been talking to artists today, sometimes the art has found someone and sometimes that person has gone and sought out the art. But you clearly have a creative mindset. But
Absolutely.
What you brought up here, it's actually called Master Your Mindset, and you were sharing that this is a big part of how you do your art, which is very different. Why don't you explain that a little bit to us?
Okay, so I'll start from the beginning.
Yeah.
From about I've always been painting, I've always been doing art. It's a way of how our family works. It's just what you do.
Right.
So that's just how we live. But I'm quite the perfectionist, so sometimes not so much anymore because I've worked through that, but 5 years ago, I would get stuck if I wasn't sure what I wanted to paint, as opposed to just letting it happen.
Right.
So I made a challenge to myself every day. I think I did it for almost a year, maybe over a year. I put an alarm for 10 minutes, and then I just put my pen to my sketchbook and drew and colored, scribbled, used different pens. And the intention behind that was so that I wasn't doing something specific and I could just put my pen to paper and get that creative muscle flowing, because it's like writers, they say there's a block, but once you sit down and actually create the space that you're writing, then it just flows. So I created that space, and I put on motivational videos on YouTube with just speakers that would go on. I would set an alarm for 10 minutes so I wouldn't go over, because otherwise I loved it. It's really fun, but there's so many other things to do. So I thought, okay, just do it 10 minutes, then there's always time. You always have 10 minutes in the day. So doing that, I listened to so many speakers that I learned so many exercises on how to find your values or create your mission and how to live your mission and actually do it on a daily routine. So then I made those exercises, and I was doing it over the years, and that influenced my art, because my art started to shift of what do I think is skillful to what's creative, and how can I pull something out of me. So before I used to try to do stuff that was, it's still creative and skillful, but it was more of a challenge in a different way. Now I challenge myself, not as much as a skill, but trying to think outside of the box. How can I be different? How can I create something that I've never seen before, and hopefully nobody else has seen before? How can I bring something new to this world while I'm here?
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds very much like, and I think that's a process that many people go through in different businesses. It's like not you going from that thing of what I'm supposed to say when I'm on stage,
exactly,
what I'm supposed to put out when I go to a presentation, what am I supposed to wear, what is expected of me, versus going behind the stage. And trust me, I've done this. I mean, I've stood in front of 20,000 people to talk, and you're like, how can I serve them all? I know, I'm just going to do one big, let me say something today that shifts something, compared to sitting there racking your brain going, okay, I got to make sure I say this for those people and this for those people. And at some point, you just kind of give in.
Yes.
Know that you have skill.
Yes.
And that it's going to come through that creative piece, right?
Yes.
Wow. So you have
Precisely.
been, you have been raised in a creative home.
Yes.
Right? And I had the pleasure of meeting your sister earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting. So same with myself. So I'm an entrepreneur I have a daughter who did an entrepreneurial path and corporate path. I have a son who we're all going to be getting together.
It's great. I'm excited.
Sky meet ocean, ocean meet sky, who's also going down the same path. His father has made a business of art, and so it's very interesting. Some get very drawn in, and some go, that's not quite what I want to do. Clearly, you guys have all joined. So tell me a little bit, what is it like to be a creative in a creative home?
Okay, it's a loaded question.
It is a loaded
Honestly,
question.
It's great though, because art is I find can be isolating, but I'm an introvert, so I thrive on that. I love all of that time alone.
Right.
But sometimes you do need someone's feedback, or just, how's my outfit? Things like that. It's like, well, what do you think about this? And then they go, yeah. I go, okay, that's what I was thinking. And then you can move through it. So especially preparing for this show, my mom, my sister, and I, when we used to live at home, would all be in the basement for a month, 2 months of just 24/7 artwork, and having each other, or like Tasha started using sparkles, and then I put sparkles on mine, and then that influenced Lisa's, but everyone in their own way. But it was just a chain reaction of different creative things that then influenced your own style, but it's together. So it's just so fun and exciting, because you never know what's going to come up, and especially when you're all in that zone of being creative, it's like rapid fire of creative ideas. And then especially for the event, like, okay, the runway, or why don't we do a painting competition or painting demonstration together? So we do our two styles in one, and we don't know what we're going to do until we're on stage and we're doing it, and then we thought, well, that's pretty cool.
Right.
And now we have a new style. So we really just build on top of each other.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in some families, right? Whether it's restaurants and the whole family gets involved in a restaurant, or a family of entrepreneurs, or what have you. Have you ever felt, and I've interviewed a lot of people, this may not sound like the case to you, but maybe, have you ever felt like, wow, like they did it in their way? Being at the younger, being like the youngest, the youngest in the family, or did you ever feel like they were, hey, we think you should do business this way? Or did you ever feel like you didn't have your own individual voice?
No.
Or you had to claim it?
No.
Okay.
Both my parents are very empowering.
Right.
They provide suggestions, and they're there to help me thrive, but by all means, it's you do what you want to do as long as you're doing something.
Right.
If not,
as long
as you're doing something. If not, we'll give you direction. But I've never really had a problem with knowing. I mean, there's certain things, okay, like 5 years ago when I was trying to figure out what do I want to do with my life.
Right.
I reflected, luckily I have so many hobbies, so I basically just made all of those into work, and I love it. But some people don't have hobbies, which I don't comprehend, because I have so many that there's always something to do.
Tell us, what are some of the hobbies?
Okay, well, art's one of them. Fitness is a huge one. I love everything and anything fitness, handstands. Like, I love specific muscle groups, just all of it really different. Running in trails, running on the street, swimming, kayaking, canoeing, water sports, mountain sports. So like that's never ending. And then socializing too for me is kind of like an activity, because I'm an introvert. It's like, okay, I need to prepare for this.
As she's being interviewed on stage.
It's different because you're talking about such interesting stuff.
Right.
And then personal development. So that's a huge passion of mine, which before it's always been a passion, but I didn't necessarily realize that I could serve others. Okay. It was more like, if I want to make the world a better place, start with myself. And then doing that, I figured, okay, a lot of people, you can always be better.
Yeah.
So I made a guide to help people basically figure out what their hobbies are, so that they're not bored.
Right.
And you can make work out of all of your jobs, and you can thrive. It's just...
Yeah.
So I like reading, writing, journaling, meditating. I have like 7 books at a time for the different energies of what I'm feeling when I'm in the car, if I'm on a run, or if I'm painting. And then meditation, I have so many different types of styles of that. So there's just always something to do. So back to the family part, they're always there for support, but they've never really they influence me daily, but not kind of against my will, because I have so many passions, and fashion design too. So that I do wonder, because my mom was a designer, if and when I would have found that. Obviously, I found it at a younger age because I was surrounded by it, and we have a sewing room and we have a painting room. So I actually just found my first skirt that I made, or my mom made it, but I designed it and colored it and dyed it. But I think I was 7 years old. The skirt is so cute. And now I'm making a line, so it's like, okay, this is amazing. I don't know when I would have found it on my own. I think I have a huge head start because my parents are both so creative and entrepreneurial as well. So they're just always providing, like, the conversations are different at home of what I'm overhearing, or just tips all the time.
You know what? I say that. So I'm an entrepreneur, have been for 30 years, and it sounds like you are, that's where you're going to be going. And I always said, so I have 2 children. Both my children are 10 years apart. Both my children are 10. There are 10 years apart between both my children. And so my daughter was raised in an entrepreneurial home. My son was raised in an entrepreneurial home. And particularly with my son, I've added a few more companies. So I've had a number of companies, and so now there's a number. And my dining room table tends to be full of paper. Okay, you know where I'm going. Okay. So I have this dining room table. I'm like, that's that company. Now Ocean's starting his company. So I got Ocean's company. I got this. And people they're like, so, one thing they'll say, you work so much. And I'm like, it ain't work. It's not work. Okay. The second thing is I say, Lord forbid that my son's partner one day decides that they should have dinner on every night at 5 o'clock at the dining room table, because this kid wasn't raised at 5 o'clock having dinner. It's like, okay, we're eating in that living room tonight, or at 7 o'clock. Yeah, right?
On the floor near the TV, because the dining table has paperwork everywhere. That's exactly.
I know. Yeah. I said to him the other day, I said, you're going to have to marry someone who's creative, because it's the only person that's going to understand how we think, right?
And as I'm growing up, I've really noticed a difference in mindsets of just unconditional love for everyone. But there really are certain people who you can click with on a different level, just because I do think differently. Like, everything anyone says to me, I'm like, oh, well, you could do this. And I'm giving them unasked for business plans. And then now I'm realizing, oh, that's just how my mind works. And everyone is a different piece of the puzzle, and everyone's so important, because I need people who can maybe add a little bit more structure and go, no, let's be a little more logical, because I'm like, oh, it'll all work out, just go for it. Hope for the best. So it's very interesting of that mindset. Because someone said to me once, oh, it's great, my dad leaves work and he leaves work at work. And honestly, it's been years since I've heard that, and I can't comprehend it, because I just don't know what that looks like.
Right. Yeah. I said that. I said either, sometimes people in those kind of families, they go off and do something very differently. And, my daughter was, she had her first business was called Baby Ocean Wear. It was a clothing company that she collaborated with American Apparel and did little lotuses and Buddhas and named it after her baby brother. And she painted before that. And so now here, all these years later, Ocean is doing the same thing.
That's so cool.
But then she decided to go corporate, and she rocked corporate. Yeah. She loved it, and she loved that structure, and she made her way very quickly. But I think it's still the creative mind, like you said, whether you're an accountant or there is a creativity to what people do if they tap into that.
Well, that's why you need a team, though, to build a company. You need different sides of the brains who are doing different things, who make you go, okay, no. My graphic designer, she goes, okay, well, you can't just do this. Well, just, do this. And so she adds a little bit more structure in that sense. I think, okay, this is great. I have the vision, but you can put it on paper a little bit better, which is great.
Absolutely.
So it's all teamwork makes the dream work.
Perfect.
Yes.
I have to say, before we kind of wrap up a little bit, and I want to ask you a question, because you do the same thing in the morning that I do and have done for many years, to the point where I got a Bose speaker for the bathroom. Yeah. So when I have a shower, I listen to a motivational person. Okay. I know we're okay. We drink the same tea, sister. So who outside of your family, outside of your creative influence, who do you tend to, I go through phases. I did a lot of Steve Harvey. I love Brene Brown. And then there's, Gary Vee. He's always worth rattling your morning with for social media. Who are the people that are inspiring you in the outside world? And I know there's probably lots. You're going to have to nail it down. I can see your face going. Give us one or two people that are really, it works for you.
Yes. Okay. Oh, there's so many different people.
I know.
One recently, Eric Thompson, I think his name is. He's a little bit newer.
Okay.
But he's just got great energy, and he's so forceful but genuine, and it's so accurate. But then there's, I forget exactly who Tony Robbins' coach was, Roy or Ron, something along those lines.
Okay.
I forget their names, but
okay.
it's on my
hey,
most
like it's
recently
Tony Robbins,
YouTube.
Tony Robbins, mentor, coach.
Tony Robbins
I think,
is definitely a huge one, and then my videos that I listen to have his instructors of basically it down the lines, and then I really love what's his name? He's very philosophical.
Joe Dispenza.
Okay, that's one
too. Deepak Chopra. No.
I forget, but
it's okay.
I have it on my phone. But it's nice because it's not necessarily motivational, but he talks a lot about, and I think this is what helps me do and be everything too, is it's all about energy and just this universe and what's happening. And so when I zoom in to work on something, I zoom out and I think about astrology and I go into the stars, because what works on that level works on this level.
Right.
So when I can understand that energy shift of just literally what's happening on a scientific, like people say, positive thinking, I'm like, no, it's science. Yeah. Our thoughts have vibration has energy, it goes out and it comes back, and it's real.
Fantastic. So let's bring it down to this gorgeous piece of art that we are looking at here. Now, is your style, so is this something that you're working now? Is this your style now? Has it always been your style? Are you like your sister that kind of fluctuates, or do you gravitate to something?
I always try to do something new for every show and exhibition that I do, just to challenge myself. This one I found, it's new, but it's not. I've always done vision boards and I've always made collages.
Fabulous.
This year though, I decided to make my vision board into an art piece and resin it on top. So that's how this series sort of started here, and I was inspired by another artist who taught us how to use resin.
Right.
So now I basically put what motivates me into the art piece, so to help people design their life and envision their future and their creative lives and everything that you could have and want in life. And let's put it on paper and actually see it on the daily. And then what are quotes? So this one's pretty funny. Mom, I am a rich man. And just like, really embodying that. And then we cannot become what we are by remaining what we are, so what we want. So it's like you need to let go of the good to have the great, of always being in a changing mentality. And then queen, just because we're all royalty.
That's amazing. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So before we kind of wrap up, my friend, it sounds like you're very divinely inspired. That's kind of the words. Yeah, there you go. Okay. That's what kind of comes to me. Is you're very divinely inspired. And what do you do to just take care of you and relax? Because that's what they're like, oh my gosh, because creatives, and I see you, I hate to tell you that your next 30 years are going to be like this, but I'm on the next 30 and it's like this. So what do you do to, I'll say, reserve, like to fill your cup, share with, because there's a lot of people listening on our show that are divinely inspired entrepreneurs, and it's that piece. Yes. So what do you do to reserve?
Okay, I have a very specific morning routine because I do have a hard time slowing down.
Right.
Like it's very challenging to do nothing. So I have to first work on my mindset of understanding that doing in my mind nothing is actually so beneficial.
Right.
And it's recharging me. But then I do have actual tools to help me. So in the morning I have an hour to an hour and a half routine, 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of affirmations, 10 minutes of visualization, 10 minutes, it's more like 20 to 30 minutes of journaling, because I've got pull out my cards and I do the chakra cards. And then some people do 10 minutes of exercise just to have your physical body. I love the gym, so I'll go for an hour to an hour and a half. So it really turns out to a 2-hour morning routine.
Right.
And the ocean, I go in the ocean throughout the whole year, which is, I can't recommend it enough to people. It's so rejuvenating, and I find especially when I'm overwhelmed or feeling, even though I overwhelm myself, the ocean just carries it all away in the waves, and you're literally like, wow, I'm feeling great, and then you get up and go, and I run. I know that's not really a downtime, but for me it is, because
Yes.
it's my meditation
Yes,
time.
absolutely.
Especially running, everything gets worked out in my head, or your blood's pumping.
Yeah.
I guess everything I kind of do, honestly, is like my up, but then also what rejuvenates me, because the art is too. It's like work, but it's also what relaxes me. So it's all of it.
But it sounds like you schedule those pieces of
Very scheduled.
self-recovery,
Yes. Yes.
self-love, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny as you talk. When I was 27, I found Tony Robbins for the first time at 3:00 in the morning while I was pregnant with my daughter.
Oh, wow.
And bought the cassettes, okay, the tapes, okay. So I fell in love there, and then it has evolved. And I am a big advocate of swimming in the ocean.
Yes.
That's what I do.
Yes, it's great.
That's why my son's named Ocean.
And one other thing too that I always forget about, but it's so important, especially for me, because I can so easily spend so much time alone, is it's almost like a goal for me to socialize. Like I'll be like, okay, 2 socializing a month, and at the beginning of the month, I'll text 2 friends or maybe 3, and I'll set a date, because I know that it's good for me to get out there, but I'm always in that work mode that it's so easy to go, oh, I'll see you later. But it's like life's about relationships and the people around you, so that's so important too. But then working on yourself so that you can have better relationships. So it's all intertwined.
It's going to be amazing to see how your relationship to art and how you take it out into the world really evolves. So we're going to wrap up, but I have a final question for you. But before I do, where can people find your work? So let us know if you have a website or Instagram handle. Where can we find you?
Okay, so I have a website. It's www.skylilah.com, SKYLILAH.
Nice.
And my Instagram is the same, @SkyLilah. And I've got all the social media platforms. It's all the same
It's all
handle.
there. It's all the same handle. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. And so, for us in our show, we do a weekly show for what's considered the Gen Z generation, and we call it the Gen Z-ists, because it's this Gen Z and genius. And the relationship between all the generations are now coming together. And one is really helped. There's this massive collaboration through the generations, and that's what I think. Oh, we got a piece of something. That's what's happening in the world today, in business, in commerce, and also clearly with your work. Okay, last question.
Yes.
You may know what this is.
I'm
You might have been
ready for
listening.
it.
You're ready?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
You don't know?
But I'm
Okay.
ready.
So you're on your way to a desert island, which for you sounds like you'd be more than contained of things to do. You're going to a desert island. You're going by yourself, and you're packing your suitcase, and you only have room for one album, and that is going to be what album could you not handle not listening for the rest of your life? And it's just one.
Okay, this isn't it, but I'm learning to act on what comes to my mind first. For some reason, Eminem came up first.
Okay.
I really love chill music. I don't necessarily have albums. I have specific songs that I enjoy. But wow, that's tricky.
I know, it's a tough question, right? People are like, what? So So is it going to be Eminem?
Well, I mean, if we had all the good songs in one, like I kind of relaxed to those songs.
That's okay. Okay, so you're
I
taking
don't know.
Eminem.
I'm a little bit of a mix, but sometimes I need honestly, it's the motivational videos that calm me. I need to put those on, and I'm good. It's like people talking motivational words.
Yeah.
That makes me relax.
Okay.
And also then I'll be pumped up. I'm probably having a blast on that island.
Yeah, so it's one album and it's going to be Eminem.
Yeah,
Is that
why not?
it?
Let's
That's
go
it.
for it.
That's it. Thank you so much for being
you
on
for
Mission
having me,
Accepted
Deb.
and chatting with me today.
I appreciate it. This
You're
was
welcome.
lovely.
Awesome.
Thank you.